Welcome everybody to the AllStar MMA Pick Show. I'm your host JHK, and I am joined by JSpec as well as the fight analyst Garrett Kerman. Today, we will talk UFC 283 going down to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, discussing the fights from bottom to top, making our picks and predictions. We will end the show with with happiness. Throughout the show, we're gonna utilize the AllStar app and its picks option. Go into the descriptions down below and download the app to follow along and make your own picks. I will be making my picks live on the air throughout the show. You'll be able to play with us, your friends, build a community, make leagues, win contests, win prizes. Look out for all of that stuff. For all of you who are watching, give your picks for every fight throughout the show in the chat. Give your tidbits, give your comments, whatever. We're all about freedom of speech. UFC 283. You guys, what do you guys think about this card, Garrett? Like overall, like what would you grade it? Before we start breaking it down.
I would give it about a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a good card. I think it's a good card to start 2023. Let's put it that way. Brazil, we're finally back in Brazil. So, all the Brazilians I know are going nuts for it. Got a ton of great Brazilian fighters on tap here. So I think it's a good overall card. Not a great, amazing card, but it's a good fight card to start off, the good pay-per-view to start the 2023 season.
JSpec, how about you, man? How do you grade this card?
Well, I would have given it an 8.5. Have to knock it down to an 8 because Brad Tavares isn't fighting, and I'm always a homer for the Hyons. So, yeah, that really stunk. I don't like when fighters have to drop out of fights. I'm honestly looking at everything besides the first 2 fights. I think I'm gonna be glued. I'm gonna be like not blinking at all. So I hope it lives up to my expectations, putting the bar pretty high at 8.
Oh, definitely. It's gonna usually these cards, you know what I mean, when they're like matchups that you feel like you're skeptical about, they usually end up being pretty good fights. It doesn't matter who's fighting, long as it's exciting. That's what fans are looking for. So now let's jump into this card, man. UFC 283. To kick off the event, we got a bantamweight matchup. Let me get this matchup on the screen right here, you guys. This is the app. You're getting a live view of the app right now of the matchup right here between Daniel Marcos and Simon Oliveira. Daniel Marcos, 29 years old, undefeated, 13-0 record, making his UFC debut. His last win was on the Contender Series against Brandon Lewis, a unanimous decision. On the flip side, you got Simon Oliveira, 31 years old, 18-4 record. He is 0-1 in the UFC, lost his debut against Tony Gravely at UFC 270. And he, as well as that, he's been inactive for 12 months, which is something that you guys got to look at real carefully. Garrett, I'm going to shoot it to you first. What do you think of this matchup? What is your breakdown of what's going on?
Oh man, it's a tough one, especially the first fight of the card. Betting wise, I think I kind of have to stay away because you got a newcomer in Daniel Marcos coming off the Contender Series. Really hasn't fought literally anybody coming into his debut, but he's undefeated, 13-0. He has a good kickboxing style background, good at keeping the distance. He's got good movement, but he tends to fade as the fight goes on. We saw in his Contender Series fight, and Simon Oliveira really will bring the fight to him. He's got that Muay Thai style striking, good jiu-jitsu, nasty guillotine as well. We've seen in the Tony Gravely fight where he was hunting for that guillotine relentlessly when Gravely was going for takedowns. So I think he has got more paths to victory here. But if you look at the betting line, right, Marcos opened as a -156 favorite. Now we have Simon Oliveira as the rightful favorite, which is around -145, I think, where it's at. But a lot of money's been coming back in on Marcos. This line has been jumping all over the place. It leads me to want to kind of stay away because this kind of reminds me of the Puna Soriano going against Roman Kopolov fight last week, where it was all over the place. You have Puna all the way up to -200 at one point, and then the money came all the way in on Kopolov throughout the entire week, all the way down to, I think Kopolov was +120. And then I'm like, this line doesn't make sense because in theory, Puna's beaten the better competition. He's looked better in his UFC career thus far. And look what he did. He shit the bed. And sometimes these lines, they tell you a tale. And this line is telling me stay the hell away from this fight. But ultimately, if I'm looking to side here and to bet, I'll probably side with Simon Oliveira because I just think he's got more paths to victory. He's got more power on the feet, and he's definitely got the grappling, the wrestling, and the jiu-jitsu to really make Marcos work here. And it's definitely a huge step up in competition for Marcos. So give me Simon Oliveira to get the job done.
JSpec, we got Peru versus Brazil. Who you taking?
Well, I'm gonna go with Marcos on this one because Oliveira doesn't really have a win yet in the UFC at the UFC level. So Marcos is looking for his first as well. I'm gonna go with him because I'm a sucker for that O on that record. 13, and there was nothing to joke at. I know it's at a lower level of competition, but at this point, Mr. Oliveira hasn't shown that he can get that dub either. So that's where I'm going. Oh, Oliveira
Kevin
had
Nicholson.
abdominal surgery. Nice.
Shout out to Kevin Nicholson. We got him giving his 2 cents on the topic. Let's see what he has to say. Oliveira had abdominal surgery. I'll be watching how he responds in the cage. Clinch positions, potential for much isometric abdominal strain. Kevin, thank you so much for that insight. I didn't know that, so that's why he's been out for so long, right? Man, whenever a guy comes in with an undefeated record in the UFC, you're gonna put a lot of hype around him. You're gonna look at him and say, like, this guy, he must have something. But then you got Simon Oliveira, who has already won fight, who has experienced the jitters, even though he lost, he competed against Tony Gravely. Tony Gravely is very, very good for the division. I'm gonna take Oliveira in this fight, even though he's had all abdominal surgery, and that's a red flag. I'm just gonna go with a more experienced guy and take him. And yeah, and I like Brazil. Even if it goes to the cards, we've had some home cooking in the past.
You think it'll be home cooking? All
yeah,
right.
we could see some home cooking, man. Let's go to the next matchup. We got another bantamweight fight, back-to-back bantamweight matchups. Luan Lacerda, 30 years old, 12-1 record. He's also making his UFC debut. He's a former Judo Brazil bantamweight champion. He's on a 10-fight win streak. And before he got signed to the UFC, he was 2-0 in LFA. On the flip side, you have Cody Stamann, a longtime vet of the UFC, 33 years old, 25-1 record, 6-4 with 1 draw in the UFC. He has wins over Brian Caraway, Brian Kelleher, and Eddie Weiland. Garrett, what is your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, you look at Lacerda, right? They're putting him up against a fringe top 15 opponent right away, which is kind of crazy to think because he's 12-1, really hasn't faced great competition, on the regional scene, trains with the likes of Jose Aldo, but doesn't fight like him. He's got elite jiu-jitsu skills, doesn't have the striking abilities that Aldo has, unfortunately, where I do think Stamann possesses much better striking abilities than Lacerda in this matchup. I feel like Stamann he has the grappling to keep this fight on the feet. But if this fight somehow he trips up, gets to the mat, he's in, it's going to be a sweat. It's going to be a massive sweat. So at any given time, Lacerda can snatch any type of limb. He can take your neck, anything. His jiu-jitsu skills are elite. So Stamann's really just going to have to sprawl and brawl his way to a victory, which I think he can do. And the line is kind of suggesting that. He opened as a minus 174 favorite. Now he's ballooned up to, well over minus 300. And rightfully so. Fought elite competition. He's fought, great competitors. He's been in the top 15 at some point, and he's looking to get back in there. Ultimately, I got to side with Stamann here. I think he's just the known commodity. He's got the experience, and he's got the wrestling to keep this fight on the feet and just punish Lacerda, and probably get a wide unanimous decision victory.
JSpec, who do you got here? You going to go with the Vegas native?
Well, I'll get right to it, man. Cody Stamann is the pick for this fight because he's got all the things that were previously mentioned by Garrett. He's got the experience. He's got the skills. He's been there, done that. He's fought the better of the competition. Also because article I read from the AllStar, when he went deep into talking about what it feels like when you lose, you know, as a competitor and you lose, it's the loneliness that really gets you down. And I thought that was really compelling of him to open up like that on that level. And I know that to be true. So, you know, I like the guy. I like it a lot. I wish I had like good analytics like Garrett does. I'm just a fan that just loves these guys, and my love is pointing me in the direction of Mr. Stamen.
We are all fans, man. That's what we're working
That's
on
true.
here. That's what we want. We want the fans to watch because we're fans. You know what I mean? We're just trying to give you guys information and make our picks. Put your picks in the comments if you're watching live. If you're not watching live, put your picks down below. If you're rewatching this at a later date. Ah, man, this is an interesting fight, man. Lacerda, Garrett mentions about the submission game, right? And Stamen, he's known to be submitted in the past, but I think like his experience will take him much further than Lacerda. I think Lacerda is gonna probably end up trying to snatch some kind of submission on him a few times if it gets to that point. But I think Stamen has learned from his fight against Saeed when he was just going for the takedown continuously and just left his neck out there and got submitted. I'm picking Stamen in this one. I like the experience that he has. I like the mentality, and I like his gym as well, man. I like his gym. I like his coaching staff. These guys are really in his corner, even in the lowest of lows. You know, they had his back, and now he's making a comeback in the division. I'm taking Stamen in this one. Next one, we got what is it? We got a women's featherweight bout between, man, a women's featherweight bout? Like
It still exists. It still exists.
it's still around, man. It's like, what the hell is going on?
They want Nunez versus Nunez for the featherweight title. I'm telling you, that's what they want. That's what
They
want.
want Nunez versus
Please.
Nunez for the featherweight title, so
Please.
Nunez wins,
So, I'm
right?
telling you.
So you
Let's
got
do it.
Nunez, right? She's 29 years old. I'm really impressed by this woman, right? She is very impressive for how small she is, and she's fighting at featherweight. She's 29 years old, southpaw, right? 9-1 record overall, 2-0 in the UFC, 8-fight win streak, wins over Bia Malecki and Ramona Pascal. But which is something that's very odd to me is she's been out for 11 months. 11 months has passed so fast. She's been out for 11 months. This is interesting. And then she's facing off against Zarah Faring, 36 years old, much older, 7-year age gap, 6-4 record overall, and she's 0-2 in the UFC. She has losses to Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer, which both fighters are not even with the UFC anymore. They're retired, actually. Both fighters are retired. Faring, she's been away for 3 years. 3 years, and she's making her comeback and flying over to Brazil against a Brazilian. This is an interesting matchup to me. Garrett, what do you see in this one?
This is a squash matchup. We know what we're getting. Nunez should come in there. She probably should get the knockout. I mean, I feel like it's pretty straightforward. It's a fight where they want Nunez to look good, and she's going to look good here. Like you said, Faring hasn't fought in forever, and she's lost to two fighters that are not even fighting anymore. I mean, this should be a gimme fight. I wouldn't lay the chalk at minus, 540. Whoever got Nunez at minus 325, kudos to you at the opening line there. But right now, it's almost impossible to bet unless you take it by KO, which I don't even think that is reasonable either. I think that's even plus, like minus 200 or so. Let me look at that real quick. Nunez to win in round one is pretty decent at plus 165 though. That's not bad. But like Nunez to win inside the distance, minus 165. For her to win by KO is minus 135. So the bookmakers are expecting a knockout, expecting a win inside the distance, and that's exactly what I'm expecting as well.
JSpec, you got the Brazilian assassin versus the French fighter. What do you see in this one?
I mean, you're not going to catch me backing too many French fighters. Let's just get it off the tip. But second, yeah, this is food. Poor Miss Faring is food right now. This is just a setup. It would. I mean, I wish there was higher levels to this because it would make sense if they're trying to go for a Nunez versus Nunez championship. This is not this is not fair fighting right here. This is a setup. This is a pure setup. And if you're looking at a bet that I would think to take maybe is that under 2.5, because this ain't going 2.5. It's not happening. Nunes by knockout, very probable. Going with Nunes for sure.
When you look at this matchup, you got Nunes. She's 5'2" at featherweight. That is insane to me. And then her opponent is 5'8", much longer reach. I gotta go with Nunes, man. I think she's like the dark horse of the division. You know what I mean? I don't even know if there is a dark horse of the division, right? But she's the dark horse of just the division, right? That's what I'm just gonna say it right there. If she wins, does she get a title shot at featherweight? Quite possibly, because she's been fighting at featherweight. Maybe they told her something that we don't know about. That if you go in there and beat this girl that hasn't fought in 3 years, which is very odd to me. I think if Nunes loses this fight, it will be the biggest upset of the card. Biggest upset of the card. We haven't even gone down the list, but I think this will be the biggest upset of the card if Nunes loses this fight. I'm taking Nunes at -5, 510. Now, the next fight coming up, we got a welterweight banger. I think this is a welterweight banger, right? Between Wally Alves and Nicholas Dalby. Alves, 32 years old, 14-5 record overall, 8-5 in the UFC. 8-5 in the UFC, man. It's interesting. Like some of these guys that have accumulated pretty decent records, kind of like under the radar. He has big wins, man. A few big wins actually. One over Colby Covington, another over Alan Jouban, and Munir Laziz. Those are some decent wins. But he's been out for 18 months. So you guys got to look at that 18-month layoff. Nicholas Dalby on the other side, 38 years old. I didn't even know Nicholas Dalby was that old, man. He's pretty, old. That's not old, but for fighters, it's old. 24-1 record with 2 no contests, 4-3-1 with 1 no contest in the UFC. He does have some decent wins over Daniel Rodriguez and Cowboy Oliveira. One thing about Dalby that sticks out to me is like he's very inactive. Like he fights like once a year. Garrett, Dalby, what do you think of this guy?
I definitely don't want to bet him at 38 years old. And then also you look at his fight against Claudio Silva, right? He gave 4 takedowns to Claudio Silva. That's so bad. If Alves had ACL reconstructive surgery, oh well, that's not good going into my bet that I took on him earlier in the week. But hopefully he's recovered. I would assume he recovered by now. But ultimately, if we take that out of the equation, right? I think he's got more paths to victory here. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's definitely the better grappler of the two. Like I just mentioned, Dalby gave up 4 takedowns to an ancient fighter in Claudio Silva, who probably shouldn't have been fighting at that given point. And then if Alice takes Dalby down, he's probably be stuck there, and he might even get finished via submission. And then also you look at the strength of competition. Alves has beaten and fought better competition as of late. Jeremiah Wells, Munir Laziz, Randy Brown, Sergio Moraes, James Krause. Those were his last, 5 fights. That's pretty damn good compared to Dalby. And Dalby was losing to Tim Means. He was looking like he lost a round against Claudio Silva. Who was a round against Claudio Silva in 2022? Only Nicholas Dalby could do that. But ultimately, I got Alves here right now. The line, I think, opened. It was a pick 'em, right? And then Dalby shot up all the way to -150. Then a lot of money came in on Alves within the last week, and he settled at about a -125 favorite, and rightfully so. I think Alves should be a slight favorite in this spot. So I'm taking him here. Plus, he's a lot younger. He's even a year younger than me. So he's only like 31, which is kind of crazy because kind of been in the UFC for a while now. Yeah, so give me Warley Alves here.
JSpec, we got Brazil versus Denmark. Who you taking?
Well, first off, before I get to that, I want to shout out Kevin Nicholson. I nicknamed him the Human X-Ray Machine. He's a constant in our weekly spaces for the AllStar, for the watch party that we do on Twitter. So if you're into that, join us, please. This man is a physical excuse me, he's a physical therapist that really knows his stuff when it comes to the body, how it works, and how it heals. So thank you, Kevin, for always bringing great information to our space and to this show now. With that all being said, I'll try to keep it short. This had me going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until I really just looked at the fact that Alves got knocked out the last time out. And that's a big red flag for me. I gotta see fighters fully recover, not just physically, but mentally. Now I heard about the knee thing. I know Dalby's older, but I kind of think Alves is more damaged goods. So with that being said, let's go Dalby.
I feel like this fight's going to be a wild one. I think they're going to go guns blazing in this one. It's in Brazil. The crowd's going to be screaming, oh, whatever they scream, right? You're going to die, right? And Dalby's going to feed into that. I think he gets really, really hyped, and he's going to go in there and just throw hammers at Alves. It's going to be a toss-up. I feel like this fight is probably going to end in the first round. The knee injury is a concern, but it's been a year, like Kevin said. I'm going to go with Alves in this one. I feel like he is the favorite, and I'm going to take him in this one. I feel like this one is it's his to lose against Dalby. Dalby's just too inconsistent, right? And I think Alves is a little bit better. Now let's go to the next shot. A lightweight bout. We got one of the top prospects in that lightweight division, Terrence McKinney, facing off against Ismail Bonfim. Now, Terrence McKinney, 28 years old. He's a switch stance fighter, 13-4 record, 3-1 in the UFC, wins over Eric Gonzalez, Matt Frivola, and Fares Zaim. Ismail, 27 years old, 18-3 record, making his UFC debut. His last fight was in September on the Contender Series, and he got a unanimous decision win. This is an interesting matchup because Terrence McKinney, he's one of the top prospects in the division, and he's also fought Drew Dober, but he's facing a guy that's debuting. It just shows like the weirdness of the matchmaking on this card. This is the first weird matchmaking to me on this card. There's a few weird like matchmaking that they had. Garrett, what do you see in this matchup? Do you see Ismail having a chance?
I think it's a dangerous fight for McKinney here. I'm not sure why he's taking this fight because Bonfim's a pretty good prospect. It was 18-3 record. He was a national boxing champion over in Brazil. He's definitely the better striker between the two for sure. And McKinney's going to have to go grapple heavy in this fight. He's going to have to, go back to his wrestling roots, take this fight to the mat and get submission. And I believe he needs to get that done in the first round because we know Terrence McKinney is going to fade. It's just what he does. The last time he went grapple heavy and the fight went to the second round was against Sean Woodson, and Sean Woodson deaded his ass right after that. So ultimately, it's round one or bust for me if you're betting on Terrence McKinney. I'm going to wait a little bit, and I'm going to take Ismail Bonfim once it hits round two and go from there because I also think he's got the higher ceiling. He's definitely the better striker of the two, and McKinney's going to come in guns blazing. And it's going to come to, is he going to get the finish in round one or not? And if he doesn't, I don't like his chances rounds 2 and 3. So give me Ismail Bonfim to get the job done.
Wow. Picking the upset. JSpec, do you see the same with Bonfim?
Well, a little bit of a story here that I have for Terrence McKinney. Going along with those spaces we do for the AllStar, the Fight Companion Watch Along, one time Terrence came into the show. And I was so excited. I said, Terrence McKinney, get the fuck out of here. And then he left. So he took it literal. And Terrence, I didn't mean it that way. I was excited for you to be there. So if you see this, my dude, I didn't mean it. I was excited. Come back around. All right. When it comes to this fight, I think McKinney's the guy to win. It's as they say, what's the phrase? It's his fight to lose. But there's also another side to this. Bonfim isn't the only Bonfim on the card. It's a pair of brothers fighting. And when you think about that, brothers doing something together, fighting together, that's one of the greatest forces on planet Earth. I believe that. Shout out to my little brother. So I'm going with Bonfim. That's what I'm doing.
All right. Let's go back to the tail of the tape.
One little tidbit. Those Bonfim brothers, they're 3-0 when they fight on the same card with one another.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that, but I knew it inside my head. Good one.
Just letting you know. So they're looking to go 4-0. So it's gonna be a special night. And plus, they're in their home country too, in Brazil.
Yeah, and I also saw that they train at Cerrado MMA, which is the home gym for like Gilbert Burns, Vicente Luque. They all came from there. I think Vicente Luque actually went back and is training there as well, where he splits camps at Cerrado MMA. Cerrado MMA, man, they're like an underrated gym out in Brazil. They're producing a lot of good talent. Gilbert Burns, Vicente Luque, those are two names, right? But I like Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney is the man, and I like his confidence. I like the way he performs, and he's a killer. He's a killer. He goes in there. He's in there to kill people, right? So, not literally, but yeah, kind of. Well, you have to have that mentality. I like his mentality. I'm gonna go with him. Now let's move on to the next fight coming up. This one is what is this? It's a heavyweight matchup. Yep. This guy's fighting a heavyweight, man. This I like this guy. Jalton Almeida. I like this guy. This guy is a monster. This guy reminds me of like what Jacare Souza would be if he was younger and bigger. I don't know why. I don't know. They just give me the same vibes, and I like that. I like those vibes. You know, he's 31 years old, 17-2 record overall, 3-0 in the UFC, 12-fight win streak. All his UFC wins are all first round finishes, and you kind of understand why the odds are the way that they are. He's facing off against Shamil Abdurakhimov, 41 years old. Oh, he's 10-year age difference, 20-7 record overall, 5-5 in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Wins, but he has wins. He has some good wins, man. Wins over Marcin Tybura and Andre Arlovski, as well as Walt Harris. Garrett, who are you taking in this one?
Oh, we know this is a showcase fight for Almeida. I mean, he's minus 1,010 right now, which is kind of insane to even say. But yeah, I mean, I can't fathom. You know, I understand if you want to take a shot in the dog because anything can happen. It's MMA and that's betting, and you know anybody can slip on banana peel and tear their ACL. Who freaking knows? But I just can't fathom him not winning within the first 3 minutes of the fight. Almeida to win in round one is minus 250 on DraftKings right now, which is insane. I kind of want to take a stab at him. I know he's probably going to win by submission in round one, which is plus 115. But I kind of want to take a stab at him to win by knockout in round one at plus 300. Majority of Shamil's losses have been by knockout. He's got a big ass head. It's very easy to hit. I think he could just take one punch on the feet from Almeida, and Almeida can knock him out. He's got power on the feet. But obviously, his bread and butter is his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu game. But I'll take a shot on plus 300 first round knockout. But yeah, Jalton Almeida gets the job done.
All right, everybody, make sure you guys put your picks in the comments. JSpec, who you got in this one?
All right, like has been mentioned, this is the Jalton show right here for sure. You know, the odds actually went up as we were preparing for the fight. Preparing for the show. You know, the odds went up. People still betting on the man with was previous negative 900 price tag, now at 1,000. It just shows the confidence that people have in this guy to get the finish. On the other side, Shamil, not just on a losing streak, on a KO losing streak, 3 KOs in a row. I mean, at this point, you can kind of breathe hard on the brother. He'll fall over. So. Gotta go with Almeida. This is also, I heard that Jalton was offered to Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill said, "Hell no! Why would I fight that dude lower in the rankings and all that?" So I think Jalton's got a lot to prove. It's a showcase for him, and go Jalton.
Yeah, this guy, Jalton, he's a beast, man. And you know what's interesting about the picks app? The Robo pick is picking the upset. Does he know, or does she know something we don't know? Because I'm going with Almeida. He's the guy that you're gonna pick until he loses, right? He's one of those guys now, right? It's like a Yuri, like a Yuri Prohaska, right? You picking him until he loses. I'm not talking about as in betting, just in straight up picks, right? Fighter against fighter. It's hard to pick against Almeida. But RoboPick, maybe we might have to come back to this. If Shamil goes in there and somehow upsets Almeida, we're gonna have to give respect to RoboPick. And so I'm gonna make my pick right here, Almeida. Let's move on to the next fight. Next fight in the welterweight division. Gabriel Bonfim, the brother of Ishmael Bonfim, 25 years old, the younger brother, 25 years old, undefeated. He's another undefeated guy, 13-0 record. That's crazy, right? The first fight on the card, Daniel Marcos, he's also 13-0, making his UFC debut, which is kind of peculiar. Gabriel, he won his Contender Series fight, first round finish. He's the former LFA welterweight champion. He's facing off against Munir Lazez, who, what is it? I lost my placing. Oh, he's 35 years old, 11-2 record, 2-1 in the UFC. He has wins. He has some solid wins actually over Anglosa and Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. That's a big win for him. What do you see in this one? Garrett, how do you break this down?
Man, we got another Bonfim brother here. Gotta be taking him too. I just know I have so much respect for these two brothers. I feel I have a lot of hype for them coming into their debuts. I bet on them on the Contender Series because I knew what they were about. I've watched them on the regional scene. I knew that they were going to be someone to have a good career. And look who they're putting them up against, right? Terrence McKinney, 3-1 in the UFC. Now you're getting Munir Lazez. I believe he's 2-1 in the UFC. Lazez has looked great kickboxer, tall, long, utilizes his reach very well. Good chin on him, as we've seen in the Al Hassan fight, except for the next fight after that against Alves. That was his only little blip, but this is a pretty big step up from Angelusa to Gabriel Bonfim, because Bonfim, like his older brother, and they're both Brazilian national boxing champions. So they have the boxing pedigree. They have the great defense that they have as well. And the thing is with Gabriel Bonfim, he's got 10 wins via submission. Like it's crazy because his grappling is actually better than his striking. And he has a striking background. He's been striking his entire life. But his wrestling and his grappling game, his submission game is very top notch. It's very sneaky good, where I think he can mix things up more than Lazez has the ability to here. So I'm taking Gabriel Bonfim, and these Bonfim brothers are going 4-0.
JSpec, you think so?
I spilled the beans earlier, man. I'm all for the Bonfim brothers at this point. Now that I know it's going to be a 4-0 run for them, hell yeah. On top of that, if we look back, I mean, it's a laundry list of people who are Brazilian and won some kind of jiu-jitsu championship. But you look at MMA fighters, especially in the UFC, who are Brazilian and won a national title or some kind of recognition in boxing. Those dudes are all killers. So, yep, you count me in for Bonfim. Let's go. Give me both of them.
Well, I'm gonna have to go with Bonfim on this one as well, man. I feel like they know something, right, about this undefeated Bonfim. I like the name Bonfim. Bonfim. Like you could chant that name right in an arena, and it sounds dope.
It's gonna go hard. It's gonna
go hard. It is gonna go hard. I think it's gonna go hard in Brazil. I like it. I like I don't know, Lazez. He's too reckless. And with that boxing background, I think I think Bonfim is going to be able to catch him, right? Because Lazez is going to play. He's going to box with him, right? He's going to go in there and stand chin high. And when you got that chin high and you got this guy with the undefeated record with a bunch of knockouts, does he have a bunch of knockouts? Or was it submissions that you said, Garrett?
He's got the crazy part is he's got the boxing background, right? But he's only got 1 knockout and 10 submissions on his record.
Wow. I wonder if those are club and subs, right? We'd have to go look at the tape. But
no, his Contender Series fight, he just dominated. Like he looked good on the feet, then took him down. And they got the bomb flu choke. It was
not trying to make Garrett wrong because he's almost always right. But it's 3 knockouts that he has.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's all good. Okay. It's all good.
I was close. I'm looking at something else.
I'm cheating. I'm using the AllStar app, yo. So,
there you go. See, the AllStar app will make you make better bets. That's what it's for, right?
That's what it's
all
for.
Right, I'm gonna take Bonfim in this one, man. I'm gonna take your guys' advice. The other fight, I didn't take your guys' advice because I like Terrence McKinney in that one. I like the recklessness of Terrence McKinney and his finishing abilities. But in this one, I feel like Laziz is going to get clipped. And he's either going to get knocked out or he's going to get submitted off the club and sub. Von Fluchoke, who knows, right? But I like that. Let's go to the next fight, a lightweight clash between Thiago Moises and Melquizael Costa. Hopefully I said that name right. This is another interesting matchup because you got Thiago Moises, who was a top 15 lightweight in the division, right? And then you got Costa, who is making his UFC debut, which is very, very odd. Anyways, Moises, 27 years old, 16-6 record overall, 5-4 in the UFC. He has wins over Bobby Green, Michael Johnson, and Christos Yagos. Costa, 26 years old. They're very similar in age, which is pretty crazy, right? That Moises has been into the UFC for a while now, if you really think about it, but he's still pretty young. One thing that stands out about Costa is that he's southpaw. He has more fights than Moises with a 19-5 record overall. He is the former Predator FC featherweight champion, and he's won his last 7 out of 8. Garrett, do you see an upset coming with this one?
It really depends on what Moises wants to do. If he goes in and fights like he did against Christos Giagos, he wins fairly easily because Costa does not have great takedown defense. And he utilizes scrambles to get back to his feet than actual like underhooks and more traditional ways to get to your feet. So if Moises takes him down, I think he's going to be able to hold him there. I think he's going to be able to control him, take his back, and possibly get the submission. But if he stays prolonged on the feet, that's where Costa has the ability to score the upset. He's got really good kicks. He's very good at range. And he's much more dangerous on the feet than Moises is. Moises is good on the feet, don't get me wrong. But then we go back to the Joel Alvarez fight where he got completely annihilated on the feet. And then he didn't look good against Michael Johnson on the feet either, where he was losing that fight. But, it's really hard to go against Moises in this spot. He's fought the far better competition. He's beaten the far better competition. And Costa's taking this fight on short notice as well. Yeah, so give me Thiago Moises to get the job done.
You agree, JSpec?
I agree on some levels, but I guess we're picking the same guy. I'm going with Moises. I think he's on the rise. I don't think we've seen the very best version of him. I think he's still evolving, still getting better. When it comes to what best version of the fighter have we seen yet? Like I said, I don't think we've seen it. Also, when you look at the betting lines, I'm not nearly as clever of an expert as Garrett is, but I can tell you when I see a trap. I lived in Vegas long enough. When you got almost -4-1 on one side and +3 money on the other, that's bait, dude. That's bait. There's the boys down at the bookies trying to get you to put money the wrong way. So stay safe. Run with Moises.
All right, I'm gonna have to agree with you guys on the Moises. I think we haven't seen the best of Moises. You're right, JSpec. The guy is only 27 years old. He's fought a lot of top guys already, and I think he's gonna take that experience and go back home and have one of those like, oh, you forgot who I was type of performances against Costa. I'm gonna take Moises as the favorite. Let's move on to the next one. This one is a middleweight clash. We got RoboCop. Hey, who doesn't love RoboCop, right? Like, he's another guy. Who doesn't love RoboCop, right? RoboCop, we got Gregory Rodriguez versus Bruno Ferreira. Rodriguez, 30 years old. Man, he's 30 years old. Dude looks pretty old, man. I thought he was like 40 years old, to be honest. I'm just going to say that right now. But he fights like he's 15 years old. He's just insane. 13-4 record overall, 4-1 in the UFC. Wins over Chidi Njokuani, Dusko Todorovic, and Junyoung Park. All of those fights were good fights. Like, he's never in a boring fight. And he's taking on a debutante in Bruno Ferreira, 30 years old, undefeated at 9-0. His last fight was on the Contender Series. It was a first-round KO in September. Garrett, another one of those weird matchups where you got a guy that has a bunch of fights in the UFC already going against a guy that's debuting. It's almost like they just put matchups together just so guys could fight in at on home turf, basically.
Well, with this fight, it's because Brad Tavares pulled out, so they needed somebody, and Bruno Ferreira was in town because he lives there. And they know that they had something with him on the Contender Series. Came in, got the knockout win. All 8 of his wins have come by. I'm sorry, 9 of his wins have come by knockout. But he's only the longest he's gone is 6 minutes and 8 seconds into a fight. So the longer this fight goes, it's definitely in Rodriguez's wheelhouse. But I don't even think it's going to go that far. I mean, these two are going to come in, they're going to bang it out, where I think Rodriguez is way more technical. He's huge in comparison. He's got 5 inches of height. I think are about the same in reach as well. And we know what the chin and the durability that Rodriguez possesses. We've seen it. I mean, he's got his head was basically split open and saw like part of his brain, and this man was still coming forward and got the knockout. It was the craziest thing you arguably will ever see watching this sport. And I think his toughness is going to be able to overcome the power that Ferreira possesses. And I think he gets the first round knockout. And for Rodriguez by first round knockout, it's actually plus 300. So I'll take a stab at that.
All right, JSpec, what you got?
What isn't there to like about Gregory Rodriguez? Previously, the only thing I didn't like about it was he was going to fight my fellow Hawaiian Brad Tavares, but that's not the case anymore. RoboCop, he is that. Just like he said, split up, still coming forward. And no matter what kind of damage he's got, he's still trying to line bombs on your face. As the people call him, Yoke Bomber. You can kind of see the parallel lines of that joke right there. And let's just be honest, Mr. Ferreira is kind of getting a bum deal here. He's got to fight a guy who's clearly established as a good scrapper on his debut. We know debuts are hard. We already know that. Then you're going to multiply that with an opponent like that. Tip of the hat to him, though, for taking the fight on short notice and just saying, screw it. I'm ready. I'm game. I'm going to do it. But heart can't sway me in this one. I'm going to go with Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, man, he's hard to pick against, and especially a guy that's coming in, not as experienced and on short notice. Yeah, it's hard to. But I think Bruno's going to come in there and make it a scrap from the start. I think he's kind of going in there with a win-win attitude, right? If he goes in there and puts on an exciting fight, he could maybe get a bonus, right? If he goes in there and maybe clips Rodriguez and gets the huge upset. But I don't think it's going to happen. But I think it's going to be a fun fight because Bruno's going to go in there and make it a fun fight against Rodriguez. I'm picking Rodriguez no matter what. But yeah, Bruno, shout out to him, man. The brass balls on him, to come out on his debut against a guy like RoboCop. Who wants to fight RoboCop? Nobody wants to fucking fight RoboCop. Come on, what the fuck is going on? Anyways, the next fight on the card, a light heavyweight matchup. We got Shogun Rua, somebody that everybody thought was going to retire like 5 years ago, still going strong. I love it. I love Shogun, man. 41 years old, 21-13-1 record overall, 11-11 with 1 draw in the UFC, man. 11-11. Just think of that. Let that soak in. He has some wins, some big wins over Tyson Pedro, Leo Machida, Corey Anderson. He was also a former champ. For people that just started watching UFC, you might not know who Shogun Rua is. He was the former UFC champion. He was also the former, he was the former Pride FC champion as well. He goes that far back. He's facing off against Ior Pateria. Man, I don't know. 26 years old, southpaw, 18-3 record, 0-1 in the UFC. He's a Contender Series vet. Lost his debut last July via TKO. That's not a good sign for him against someone like Rua that likes to throw bombs. Garrett, what do you got?
Oh man, it's tough for me to bet on Rua and Shogun at this point of his career. He's been absolutely dreadful, and we know he's not durable anymore either. And he doesn't have a gas tank. He's got maybe like 4 good hard minutes until he's just pretty much gassed out. That's kind of what I expect here. But then again, I also don't want to bet on Ior at minus 200. I'm like, how can I even? It's hard for me to make money on this fight because either one of these two, I can't trust with my money. They're both coming off horrible losses. Shogun looked like he was about to tear his ACL just like a day or two ago when he was trying to kick a soccer ball. So this man can't even like kick a soccer ball correctly. He's falling over. And you want me to bet on him in a fight against another human being? That I don't know, man. I just can't. I mean, and plus Ihor he's faster. He hasn't had that much wear and tear on him. He's more powerful. But he's also Ihor, whatever you want to call him. I got to pass in this fight altogether. But if I had to pick a side, I got to go with the young gun and Ihor getting the job done.
JSpec, we got Kevin with some analysis on injury. He says, question, what do Hua and Dominic Cruz have in common? Answer, multiple failed ACL surgeries, both knees. I've honestly lost count on Hua over a decade ago. That's not a good thing, right, for Hua?
Geez. As someone who lives with a lingering knee issue, that doesn't sound nice at all. But you know what? Forget that. A little small shout out to my wingman in the spaces, Den, who's a hardcore homer for Hua. Me and him have been watching Hua since the dawn of time, since he was brand new. I remember scratching up my Pride DVD, watching his fights too much, or until the point where you couldn't watch it no more. I think the UFC is doing him a solid by giving him a guy with not much UFC experience and coming off of a really bad loss. It's about as a soft pitch as you're gonna get for retirement out. I mean, if we believe it that this is his final fight and he's kind of doing it at home and all the right stuff, I think we love, at least I do, we love that picture perfect ending to a long glorious career. And also, what people in MMA don't know Shogun Hua? If you don't know Shogun Hua, just please unfollow me now. I don't even want to be your friend. So Hua is the pick forever Hua. I was kidding. We can still.
Man, he's picking with his heart. Let's just keep it there, right? You're picking with your heart. We know Hua. I would, if I was going with my heart, I would go with Hua. But I'm going with the pick that's going to try to make me some money and advance me in my stages on the app because I need to get my blue belt. I'm going to take the young gun. I'm going to take the guy that's going to come in there and who knows though, you know what I mean? Because we've seen this happen before where like a big time vet, former champion gets a fight and then the young gun comes in there and just completely dominates him, which we saw in Frankie Edgar and Gutierrez, right? We saw that happen, but I think that this is a closer matchup than Frankie Edgar versus Gutierrez, but I'm gonna go with the Ukrainian in this one. Now back to back light heavyweight bouts. This one is between two ranked light heavyweights. We got Paul Craig sitting at number 9, 35 years old, 16-5-1 record, 8-5-1 in the UFC. Wins over Nikita Krylov, Jamal Hill, Shogun Hua, and Magomed Ankalaev. Very impressive resume right there. Taking on Johnny Walker, number 12 in the division, 30 years old, 19-7 record, 5-4 in the UFC. He holds wins over Ion Cutelaba, Ryan Spann, whatever, Khalil Roundtree. I like this matchup a lot. It's like the complete clash in styles. Garrett, how do you look at this one?
Man, I gotta go with Johnny Walker here. I think he's more dangerous. I think he's gonna be able to utilize his reach and his height very well. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's got 3 inches of height and 6 inches of reach on him. And we know Craig is not a good striker. So he's gonna have to come in range, somehow get this fight to the mat where he's not great successful in taking the fight to the mat. He's only got 1.85 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's only successful on 20% of his takedowns. We saw what happens when he doesn't get a takedown, right? Against Volkan Oezdemir. He gets beat up on the feet, and all he does is flop to his back and try to drag you there. As long as Walker doesn't fall him to the mat, doesn't get taken down, he wins this fight with relative ease. There's no chance at all Craig wins this fight on the feet. So he's going to have to drag Walker there. And the way that Walker was able to get back up against somebody like Cutelaba leads me to believe I think he'll be able to do the same here. And he's going to punish Craig on the feet and get him out of there.
Everybody watching right now, appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, and play along with us, man. It's a picks show. We have an app. You could go in there, join the community, join us, play against us, and have some fun. JSpec, there you go. JSpec got it on his phone right now. What do you got in this one?
Well, see, the problem is just like Garrett said, there's one avenue for Craig to win this. It's via jiu-jitsu. The other problem is Johnny Walker has to put that together. And if we look at him, he is a big case of fumbling. I mean, I don't know how many times Johnny Walker has let me down already. He was one of my favorite prospects at the time when it was coming out. Me and everybody else was on him. I just think the dude is wildly inconsistent. And is he still with SBG Ireland? Is that still the case? Because
Yes.
if that, then double rubbish. Okay, nobody's good coming out of that gym anytime in the past million years. And if you want to talk about Conor McGregor, a bottle of ketchup could have taught Conor McGregor how to fight. That was natural talent. So Paul Craig is gonna win. He's gonna find a way to get his hands around Johnny's neck, and Johnny's gonna tap. That's what's gonna happen. So go Bear Jew.
Wow.
What I also don't like about Craig is the moment he lost his last fight against Usmir, he changed camps immediately. I don't like that at all. I think that's a big red flag for me, that you've been with the camp this long, you got your black belt with that last camp, and then you lose, and then you have to change camps immediately, and you're trying to blame it on your coaches essentially and your training partners, then you are on yourself and trying to get better. So you're moving to another camp that doesn't have great UFC talent either. From what I've heard, he's training with the likes of guys a lot smaller than him, a welterweight and a lightweight, and then he has the only light heavyweight he has going with him is an amateur. So, and then he's also talking about how his striking has been getting better. I've seen him doing some pad work and this and that. And I feel like if he thinks he's going to strike in this fight, he's got another thing coming to him. He better be grabbing a limb, just like he did against Jamal Hill, and try to rip it off Walker's body, because that's his only path to victory, which it could happen. Obviously, he's done it before, but I'm going to go with the latter here, me personally.
This is this shows you how, I don't want to say shallow the light heavyweight division is, but kind of, right? Because Johnny Walker came in with all this hype, and I think he drank the Kool-Aid, and that's what made him stumble. He drank the Kool-Aid, and he got some reality checks in the process, and I feel like mentally he's in a different space moving forward. And he's still, how old is he? He's still pretty young, right? He's not that old right now. So
30.
Yeah, he's 30, right? He's 30. He could be hitting his prime right now, and I feel like he has a better overall skill set, and if, as long as he stays off the ground, I don't really see a way that Walker loses, right? He's very long, much longer than Craig, much taller. I think he could use his reach, and he could probably just jab his way to a victory in this fight, because at the end of the day, all he needs to do is win. He doesn't need to get a knockout. He doesn't need to get a finish. He just needs to win. And a decision win is going to put you forward as much as a knockout win, in my opinion. So I'm going to take, in this fight, I'm taking Johnny Walker. I think he's going to be able to, I think he's going to fight smart. And I think he learned that from drinking his Kool-Aid and getting humbled. Now let's go to this fight. This is a fucking sick fight right here, right? Jessica Andrade moving back up to flyweight. And facing off against Lauren Murphy. You got Jessica Andrade. She's number 4 ranked in the strawweight division. 31 years old, 23-9 record, 14-7 in the UFC. Like I said, this is her return to flyweight. She has a 2-fight win streak and wins over Rose Namajunas, and listen very carefully, Larissa Pacheco. Think of that. Think of the range. Rose Namajunas, strawweight champion, former champion, and Larissa Pacheco, a lightweight PFL world champion, and she's beat both of them. Think of the range. Like, this is incredible to me. Like, to me, I feel like Jessica Andrade is so underappreciated as a fighter. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why people don't give her more credit, right? She's facing off against Lauren Murphy, number 4 in the division, flyweight division. 39 years old. She's a little bit older. 16-5 record, 8-5 in the UFC. She has wins over Miesha Tate, Joanna Wood, and Andrea Lee. Garrett, is this gonna be a banger, man?
I don't think. Well, I mean, one's going to be doing the banging. The other one, not so much. I'm expecting Andrade to put her lights out. I mean, this is the hardest puncher next to Valentina Shevchenko that Murphy has faced in her entire career, and this is when she's now 38 years old. I mean, she looked tough against Misha Tate. Don't get me wrong, but that's Misha Tate. I mean, Misha Tate's not throwing bombs like Andrade is going to be throwing bombs. I mean, Andrade finished Caitlin Chikagian with the body shot. A body shot took her out. Imagine when you're getting hit in the face by Andrade. I mean, and Murphy takes a lot of damage. And I'm expecting her to take a lot of damage here. And I'm taking Andrade by knockout, which is around anywhere from plus 150 all the way up to plus 205.
JSpec, let's see what Kevin has to say. He says Andrade Murphy is fight of the night for me. Andrade's first fight since low back spine surgery. I always want to see a fighter post spine surgery get through a fight with no issues first before I pick them. JSpec, does that alter your pick?
You know what? I should listen to Kevin more often, but no, it doesn't. I love you, Kevin. Dude, Lauren Murphy, what is she? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you come to Lauren Murphy? She's tough. That's the worst compliment in MMA. All right, that is the worst compliment in MMA. And what else is she going to bring? She's not bringing knockout power on the other side. Let's face it, Jessica is a phenom when it comes to power punching and landing those punches in whatever sequence she wants to throw them. She's landing them. When you talk about knockout power in women's MMA and pick a weight class, it doesn't really matter. It's a rare commodity and it should be very much treasured. Just like Miss Nunes earlier on the card, who is a knockout artist, so is Andrade. And I cannot sell that. I cannot go away from that. Especially with an aging fighter on the opposite side. We don't really know what the tipping point is for any fighter, you can guess, but I'm not going to keep betting on the toughness of a 39-year-old fighter when on the opposite side is a woman who can sit you down with a single body shot. So yes, Andrade is the pick.
All right. I love it. I love it. And when you look on the app, this is why the app's so great. If you scroll down to the bottom, you see the common opponents with both fighters. They both beat Joanne Wood, Andrade with the first round submission, Murphy with the third round decision with a decision win. Both of them lost to Liz Carmouche, man. Another fighter that is very underappreciated in the MMA space. Liz Carmouche beat both these girls, and Liz Carmouche got the second round TKO against Andrade, which is very interesting, right? And then at the bottom, you got both the fighters losing to Valentina Shevchenko, probably one of the greatest fighters of all time. Not even men and women, just all time. You know what I mean? It's very interesting to see like how these girls match up. Man, I like Murphy. She's tough. And shout out to my guy, Sean Madden, who is her coach. But I think Andrade is the pick here. Andrade, it's hard to pick against Andrade, right? Like, especially the angles. She's like 5'1", I believe. And the angles that she throws her strikes, especially her punches, is very different from like someone that's, a little bit taller, right? Murphy's usually facing somebody much taller, right? I wonder if she's going to be able to adjust. And I don't think so. I think Andrade is going to try to pummel the body. I think she's going to go get that finish. It might not be early, but I think she's going to try to go get that finish. And I'm going to take Andrade in this one. Yeah, it's a fun one. That's a fun matchup, man, right there. That's a very, very fun matchup. Now, let's get into this one. This sick welterweight clash between Gilbert Burns and Neil Magny. Neil Magny's been around for like 500 years. He's like fought everybody. Look at the record that he has. But before we talk about Neil Magny, let's get into Gilbert Burns. Number 5 ranked in the division, 36 years old, 20-5 record, 13-5 in the UFC. Wins over Stephen Thompson, Tyron Woodley, and Damian Maia. Neil Magny on the flip side, number 12 ranked, 35 years old, younger than Gilbert Burns, 27-9 record, 20-8 in the UFC. He has 28 UFC total fights. That's insane, with wins over Daniel Rodriguez, Jeff Neal, and the Leech, Li Jingliang. Garrett, this is an interesting matchup. I think it's kind of risky for Burns, but Burns needed an opponent, and he got one, man. What do you see in this fight?
Yeah, it's definitely risky considering he wants to fight for the title again. And Magny's no easy feat. The dude's fought elite competitors. He's, beaten some elite competitors. He lost to some elite competitors. And this is going to be a closely contested fight. I think the line is way off. And the only reason why Magny is, as big of a dog that he is because of the steamroll that he lost to in his last fight. I can't believe I'm blanking here, but who he lost to. But anyways, with Burns, man, I just can't fathom paying his price here. I think he wins a pretty much clear-cut decision, right? But it's just hard for me to play that line. Minus 475. The value is on Magny. If I were to play Burns, I'd probably take him by decision at plus 180. I don't think he's going to finish Magny. I think Magny's tougher than that. And so, yeah, give me Burns via decision to get the job done.
Do you agree, JSpec?
Pretty much. So Burns is, well, he's still very good. And contrary to what we said about Thiago Moises earlier, unfortunately, I believe Neil Magny's best days are over. I think he's still serviceable, can still win in the UFC. But we talk about top of the food chain, which Gilbert Burns is top of the food chain. Don't make any mistakes about that. Magny's just not there. He's just not, and I say that with full respect. Also, talking about that betting line, negative 470 for Mr. Burns as I'm reading it, plus 375 for Mr. Magny. That's bait. What I told you earlier about them lines. The bookies here in the great, fabulous city of Las Vegas know what they're doing. They know Burns is a star. They know Burns has name recognition, and they got to put a penalty on his name. So that's why the line is what it is. And they're trying to bait you. They're trying to bait you to go over Magny so you lose. All right, that's just what it is. So Burns all the way on this one. That's it.
Gilbert Burns. If you look at Neil Magny and his losses, right? He's got a problem with like jiu-jitsu guys. It seems like guys that can take him down, guys that are good from top, like a Damian Maia. Damian Maia was able to sub him in the second round. A Rafael Dos Anjos, he got the first round arm triangle. And then you got Michael Chiesa, got him to a decision. And then also Shavkat Rakhmonov, who is probably the guy you're thinking about.
Yes.
He got the guillotine choke in the second round. I see the fight playing out the same way. I see Gilbert Burns getting the finish. I think Gilbert Burns, he needs a finish. You know what I mean? Just to prove a little something, right? You know what I mean? He doesn't need to have that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson type of win. He needed to get the win at that point, right? But now he needs to show out. He needs to show us. He needs to be like Juicy J, show out, right? He needs to do something. And I think this is a perfect setting for him in Brazil. It's like a homecoming for him. I'm taking Gilbert Burns in this one. Burns, I'm just like, yeah.
Burns by sub is actually plus 200. It's not bad.
I'll jump on that. Right? I put a tenner on that. Right?
Yeah, I mean 2-1 odds. That's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, instead of buying that 20 sack, just go put that $20 on Gilbert Burns plus 200 and get your money back, and you could buy an ounce. Anyways, let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. A fourth fight, something that we rarely ever get in MMA, just in MMA, not even in UFC, just in MMA. A fourth fight between two fighters. The UFC flyweight title is up for grabs. Deiveson Figueiredo, the champion, 35 years old, 21-2-1 record, 10-2-1 in the UFC. He has wins over Jared Brooks, 2 victories over Joey Benavidez, and a solid win over Alexandre Pantoja. And of course, he's got a win over the challenger, so to say, Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno, he is the interim champion. He got that title by finishing Kai Kara France late last year. 29 years old, much younger, 26-2 record overall, 8-2-2 in the UFC. His wins, like I said, Kai Kara France. He's actually beat Kai Kara France twice. A win over Brandon Royval and Jussier Formiga. Jussier Formiga, I feel like that's a really solid win at that point in that time of the flyweight division and in the UFC. Jussier Formiga was one of the top guys there. Garrett, this is an interesting one because we got so much tape to watch, so much information. How do you take that information and make this pick on a fourth fight?
Nah, it's hard. It's close. Every single fight is close. But from what I've seen, I do, even though Figueiredo is getting up there in age, I like what we saw from him in their third fight, right? The power is still there. He's always going to have the power advantage over Moreno. And then we now saw him mix it up with the wrestling that he's learned with Cejudo. So I feel that same type of game plan, just landing those power shots and mixing it up with the takedowns, is going to be very helpful for him to secure yet another victory over Moreno. And also, you look at Moreno. Yes, he finished Kai Kara-France, right? But that was 1-1 going into the third round. And I arguably had Kai Kara-France up 2-1 if he didn't finish him in that third round. So if he didn't finish him in that third round, right? So he would have been 2-1 going into the fourth round down against Kai Kara-France. And that's a lot closer than I think Figueiredo would have had against Kai Kara-France. I think he would have deaded Kai Kara-France probably within the first 7 minutes of that fight. Figueiredo's got insane power. And then with Moreno, he's got power in his own right. I think he's definitely the better technical striker between the two. And he's got more tools than Figueiredo does. But the X factor and the power, and all of that, I just think is going to overcome what Moreno has. Plus, you also have to think about Krause isn't in his corner, him having to change camps for this fight, him changing his whole game. Not want to say this whole game plan, but some of his game plans, training with new fighters as well, new training partners. It's just all new going against a guy that's still at the same place, still same coaches, same training partners. And it's a great camp, a fight ready, literally the best fight camp for someone like Figueiredo. So I'm going to take the dog money here, plus 100 on Figueiredo.
JSpec, did you see the little video clip that they put up of Figueiredo? I think Tuesday, he was already drained. Did you see that? Like, you can see the veins in his back, which is pretty insane. Like, is he gonna make weight? Like these are some stories right here, right? Is the weight cut gonna affect him? There's a lot of stuff going on with Figueiredo, a lot of question marks.
I think he learned a lot from previous weight cuts, and I think he's suffering now, so that it's a little easier come the time to step on the scale. I know that was the narrative in the previous fight. Oh, the weight cut, and that wasn't a problem. But step back a second. Do we know the line for a draw? Because I might be the only lunatic wanting a draw. Okay, I want a 5-piece of this. I want 5 servings of these guys going for the championship. So if a draw is possible, I would like to have it. On the other side of it, I was with Kai Kara-France in the Moreno fight. I kind of wanted him to win. I thought he was doing pretty good, but Moreno, doing his thing like he always does, and shocking me. So I am terribly stuck in the middle. As I see the odds as they stand right now, -105 for both men on both sides. In Vegas, we call that the fuck you line. That just means the house is taking their cut off the top. They don't really care. They don't know. They can't tell either which way. But you know what? I gotta give the edge to Figueiredo just slightly, just slightly in this fight. But you know what? As I say that, my official pick on the fight picks app on the AllStar app is, you know what? I'm going Moreno because I just want him to win. I just like him more. And yes, do I pick with my heart? Yeah, because I'm not a gambler. I love these guys, and I love both fighters, but Moreno he's got that little bit extra. Also, realistically, when you think of 35 years old at the flyweight division, I know it's a different sport, but 35 years old in boxing in a flyweight is a big expiration date. You're done. You're like not serviceable anymore. So I know this is a different sport, different elements, different everything, but at some point that age gap is going to become a factor between the two, and I think this is the fight that it happens.
Brandon Moreno's 29 years old. He is in his prime right now. He is fighting the best, and I feel like him moving to James Krause, learning from him, and then now he's learning from Saif Saud. That's just making him much better, especially with this fight IQ. And Safe, I think, he's a phenomenal head coach for Fortis MMA. I think he's gonna have him prepared and ready. And like you said, JSpec, 35 years old in the flyweight division with the terrible weight cuts that's going on with him and the way that he looks, it's hard for me to pick Davison Figueiredo in this fight. I feel like the durability of Moreno is going to help him, and we're going to get a finish. I think Moreno's going to finish him. I think he's going to finish him in like the second or third round. I think the weight cut's going to catch up. I just have this odd feeling that the weight cut is going to catch up to him. So I'm going to go with Moreno in this one. But I would not be surprised if Figgy goes in there and just lands like one shot and deads Moreno as well. You know what I mean? That's just the type of fighter Figueiredo. That's why we love Figueiredo, because that's what he does. But an interesting tidbit is he's only fought Moreno for the last 3-4 years or something like that, which is insane to me, right? Insane. And Figueiredo is 4-1 in title fights. 4-1. That's an interesting little stat right there as well. And his only losses to who? To Moreno. So is he going to be 4-2? I think so. I think Moreno's going to walk away the champion. Main event time. Vacant light heavyweight title. Did you think when Yuri Prohaska won the title, snatched it away from Glover Teixeira, that the title would be vacant and Teixeira would be fighting for the vacant title? Nobody would have believed that if you told them that late last year, like before, Yuri vacated it, like this is what was going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just insane. But anyways, Glover, he is the same age as me. So I love Glover Teixeira, man. He's accomplished so much. He's number 2 in the rankings, 43 years old, 33-8 record, 16-6. Insane. 16-6 in the UFC. Wins over Jan Blachowicz, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, just to name a few. On the flip side, you got the youngster compared to Glover Teixeira, Jamal Hill. He's number 7 in the rankings. I don't know the last time a number 7 ranked guy was fighting for a title. I think it's very rare when you see guys. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, 31 years old, southpaw. I think that's something important to remember. He's a southpaw power striker. 11-1 with 1 no contest because of the what? Because of the weed. That's why it's a no contest, but it was a win. 5-1, 1 no contest in the UFC. 3-fight win streak, wins over Thiago Santos, Jimmy Crute, and Johnny Walker. Garrett, this is the fun matchup. I love this matchup because why? Both of these guys go for finishes. What do you see?
I think Glover is underestimated here, like he normally is. It's because of his age, the wear and tear. He's been in the game forever, and everybody's just waiting for him to like fall off that cliff. But I think he's the right side here as the underdog. I know everybody's, on the Hill train, and I get it. He's been knocking out literally everybody that he faces, and he's got that one-hitter quitter. But, I mean, Teixeira has been in there with some absolute savages. He hasn't been finished since 2017, and he's had 9 fights since then, and he's faced power punchers all throughout that time. All right, and then he went almost the distance with Yuri, and if he didn't have a mental lapse in that fight, guess who was winning that decision? Glover Teixeira was winning that decision. So here lies Hill now has the dead Teixeira, who's got good enough chin to hang in there with him. So we've seen he does get hit a lot, but everybody does. It's a fight, But now, Hill has to go against arguably the best grappler he's ever faced, the best jiu-jitsu practitioner. Yes, I gave him better jiu-jitsu than Paul Craig. Paul Craig is dangerous, but I think the better jiu-jitsu fighter would be Glover Teixeira, holding you down, taking you down, keeping you there, and then just methodically finishing you when he's down there. And then you look at how relentless Glover has been in his last 3 fights at taking the fight to the mat, right? The last 3 fights, 11 takedowns landed with 30 attempts, 37% accuracy. Not great, but he's attempting 1.46 takedowns per minute, and he's landing 1 takedown every 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Jamal Hill has only had to defend more than 1 takedown in a fight twice. And in both of those fights, he gave up 12 takedowns. 6 takedowns in each of those fights against Thiago Santos and Darko Stosic. So I think this is going to be a very hard fight for him. And having someone like Anthony Smith helping him out, it's not going to be enough. It's not enough time in a month's time to be a great defensive grappler, which he's not. He's only had a month to prepare for the relentless takedown this man's going to have to defend. I mean, he attempted 17 takedowns against Yuri Prochazka. Granted, only landed 5, but Yuri definitely has much better takedown defense than Jamal Hill. So if Glover does what he does best and utilizes grappling, I think he gets the job done. And also, look who's in Glover's corner. He's got one of the greatest strikers in MMA, history, essentially. Alex Pereira, getting him ready to face an elite, power puncher. That's why Glover's been so good against these elite strikers, is because he has someone like Pereira to help him get ready for this fight. And I expect him to do the same here. And Glover, he beats Father Time every time, and I'm expecting him to do the same here.
JSpec, what do you see?
Well, I see a monumental uphill challenge for Glover, as kind of he always has to do. The crazy thing is that he finds a way most often than not. But I want to take back a step. He wasn't supposed to win the championship in the first place. He was supposed to get smoked by Hyon. Then he gets the belt, obviously, loses the belt next time around. But then something crazy happens. The fight gods enter the situation, make the other interim fight come to a draw. Now let him have another chance. It's mystical on a certain level. It's almost destiny. It's almost like this path that is written, and he just has to fulfill his end of the obligation. The other problem is, though, the obligation is Jamal Hill, younger, arguably stronger at this point fighter, a fighter who's stronger, faster, definitely. But then we go back to, where can he win the fight? In open space, that's where Jamal Hill's going to win this fight. I don't think he's going to have a superior clinch game to Glover. He's definitely not going to out-grapple Glover. So when you look at the amount of space in the octagon that Hill can win, it's less. The Father Time thing. Well, Father Time goes undefeated for sure, but Glover could still definitely do it. It's just so hard to count him out. On a personal level, I kind of want Jamal Hill to win because I got an autographed glove from him. So that would be really cool. It'd kind of make it better. But, like I said, there's something in the cards here. Tarot cards that somebody sprayed chicken blood all over the place. I don't know what it is, but the fight gods are basically opening the door for Teixeira to get his belt again and ride off into the sunset. And I hope he takes it this time. I hope he takes that sunset ride that is all deserving and is almost never accomplished. You talk about never accomplishing stuff, being this old and getting a championship in the light heavyweight division, and then getting a storybook type ending to a wonderful career through a wonderful guy. So, like, my heart always pulls me in one direction. It's Glover, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree with JSpec on all of those aspects about Glover, man. It almost seems like it's destiny, right? He turns down the short notice fight against Ankalaev, and then they give it to Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz and Ankalaev go in there and they fight to a draw, and then immediately after the fight, they already booked the fight between Teixeira and Hill. Hill's the younger guy. He's the faster guy. Maybe he's the more powerful guy. We don't know yet. But the thing is, Glover, he has this ability to get clipped and recover and just somehow end up on the ground and just submitting guys. And I could see it happening that way. It's just, can Jamal Hill attack at the right moment when he does have him clipped? You know what I mean? Can he throw we'll see like the level of fight IQ I think Jamal Hill has in this fight come out more than any other fight we've seen of him, right? Because Glover is a puzzle that Jamal Hill has never faced before. And the last time Jamal Hill faced a submission guy, and a lot of people consider Glover a submission guy, is Paul Craig. And look what Paul Craig did to Jamal Hill. I'm not saying that that's the same type of fight, because Glover can knock you out as well. I'm going with Glover. I think we're going to see a storybook ending to this card.
And people forget that Teixeira was outstriking Yuri Prochazka in that fight for a majority of that fight. Like, he was outstriking him. And Yuri's a dangerous striker that throws from all types of angles that it's hard to really game plan against. Well, Hill doesn't possess those different, skill sets that Yuri has. He's more of a straightforward type of striker, right? So I feel like it's going to be easier to game plan, easier to see what's coming in front of him. And I think he's going to do well, me personally.
You know what's interesting about this card is, like, you should, if you guys download the app and make your picks, just look at how many Brazilians you picked. Just look at the ratio of Brazilians you picked in Brazil. Just look at it, because I think a lot of people will just take, all the Brazilians and say, let's just ride with that. You know what I mean? Because it's I think it's happened in past cards in the past years where every Brazilian has won in the whole card.
In Brazil too.
Yeah, in Brazil. So we don't know for sure, but yeah, make sure you guys go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, and make your picks alongside us. We're gonna be building communities in there. We're gonna be building leagues, and you guys are gonna be able to win contests and prizes just by making picks. It's completely free. There's no add-ons. There's nothing like that. You know what I mean? You download all these crazy apps, right? And they say that they're free, but they're not, because you have to pay extra for this and that and all these pop-ups. There's none of that. This app has everything for you. You could get news, all the MMA news from every major website, as well as the AllStar app. You can see all the interviews that I do for the AllStar and other sports. If you're following like soccer, if you're following the NFL, NBA, whatever sport, we have it. You could customize it the way that you want. If you just only watch MMA and let's say the NFL, you could customize it to where you only see MMA content and NFL content on your app. So make sure you guys go in there and download the AllStar app. Kevin, he threw in a little bit of tidbit right here. He said Hill via knee to the liver, followed by ground and pound before round 3 is done. Kevin's calling his shot. We'll see, Kevin. We appreciate you, Kevin, for giving us all a little bit tidbits. Moving forward, we would love to have you come in every time and give us some information that I don't think any other show will give you, like this detailed, like medical breakdown, right?
I rely on Kevin all the time, dude. He's always dropping great gems in our watch party. Thank you, Kevin, all the time. Yeah,
I need all that.
He even when the fighter's coming back from an injury, he'll be watching and he'll be like, his movement makes me iffy right now. And then like a minute or two later, dude gets destroyed. So I call him the human X-ray machine for a reason.
A question that we could, end this show with is, could we see Glover retire if he wins? What do you think, JSpec?
Please, Glover. Like, I don't know how many times you're gonna roll the dice. I think if he gets this, like we said, we rarely get that walk-off home run, end to a career type stuff in MMA. And with it being at home field, so to speak, and all the stuff, like I said, all the crazy stuff that had to work out for this to be even a scenario, yes, Glover, when you watch this, because I know you will, win and then go home. That's it.
Garrett, you don't see him retiring.
Absolutely not. He's got too much pride. And he thinks he's in his prime too. So if he thinks he's in his prime, we know he's going for the Yuri rematch. He wants that. He wants to win. He wants that Yuri rematch again. And he wants to get that. Then and only then I can see him retiring if he beats Yuri. Or not even if he beats Yuri. If he wins and then fights Yuri, win or lose, is when he'll retire.
Yeah, I can see that as well. I can see that if he wins this fight, becomes a champion, he'll probably stick around for Yuri. And I think that's the only fight that probably bring him out of, keep him away from retirement, right? But who knows though, you know what I mean? Like what's wild is he picks up the championship title. Him and Pereira are champions in the UFC, but they come from this small gym in the Northeast. Crazy. It's insane to me sometimes how these things work out like that, right?
What's that old phrase?
Like,
dynamite. The old phrase, dynamite comes in small packages, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Old phrase.
Well, both of those guys are not small packages.
That's for sure.
No homo, but yeah. Right. Anyways, we're gonna end the show. Make sure you guys leave your picks in the comments, and we'll review those picks in the future show. Next week there's no UFC show, so we will not have a show, but we'll be back the week after to break down and review some of the picks and talk shit a little bit to each other for wrong picks. Yeah, everybody, thank you guys for joining, and JSpec, Garrett, we'll see you guys next week, or actually not next week, in a couple of weeks.